May I welcome Marcel Tkacik, Data Science Manager, Generative AI Lead at PwC Austria, who will tell us about augmented retrieval products with GAI models. This session will cover the development and application of augmented retrieval products using generative AI from engineering to testing. Emphasis will be on optimizing search functions in a business context and employing these models on Azure. We'll also discuss incorporating feedback mechanism to improve product quality and align with evolving business and user needs, enhancing decision-making and business operations. Marcel, welcome to DSC.
Okay, thank you very much for those of you who still survive through the busy schedule up until now. I really appreciate it. My name is Marcel Tkacik, and today I will take you on a journey through building retrieval augmented generative AI products, as we like to call it these days. So my name is Marcel. I'm a data science manager and generative AI lead. I work in a consulting company called PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is one of the biggest consulting companies in the world, serving primarily large corporate and governmental clients. And I work in Austria, so it's a territorial company. Yeah, here in Austria, we have like a very capable, high-performing innovation and AI team where we are trying to be at the forefront of technology and experiment with new tools and try to build the tools on our own. Now, because PwC itself is technically a global network of consulting companies, for each territory, which is usually a country, we together with United States and Netherlands are the best performing ones in AI now. So I will take you on a little bit of a journey of what we were trying to do in last, let's say, 9 months, since the OpenAI models became available on Microsoft Azure, which is what we are on. So when we talk about generative AI, we always have like these definitions that it's like mimicking data and so on. How I like to talk about it is that it's basically very smart, and especially GPT models are like a very smart time series forecasting machine where instead of the timeline, you just have like this order of words, which is the line. So it is autoregressive process, as some of you know, and it was already covered at some lectures before today in this main lineup. What is, you know, when these models became available in like November last year, it was of course a big boom, and you could ask questions, you could give it instructions to summarize things, and people had in mind that the business use cases will be very straightforward. That you will just like deploy it somewhere in company and it will work and it will be amazing and so on, which is not really what happened as we are seeing right now. In general, for generative AI, I see, and most people would see like 2 big areas, broad areas where the generative AI can be used. One is like content creation, summarization, drafted general documentations based on your instructions, when a general model knowledge can be queried, and when you give it like clear instructions. So there's like one broad area where it generates something, which is the original purpose of it, right? And then there is this other area, which is like doing research, and I don't mean academic research, but like doing desk research, asking questions about like, oh, what should I do in this case? Can I travel to Serbia on in the business class or economy class, and so on? This is what wasn't the original idea of GPT models and generative AI, but this is how people also would like, of course, to use it. So this is another broad area, and asking questions, getting answers. In general, generative AI models are good in area 1, so like generating things and creating them quite creatively based on how you set this temperature parameter, but they are not very good in number 2, in the area 2. For the companies, especially like our big corporate clients that have a lot of data they need, like they are always looking for some effective knowledge management solution, which doesn't really exist so far, like nothing is really user-friendly and so on. Still, there is already like quite good value in number 1, like summarizing emails, drafting email replies, as long as there is this general context that the models are trained on. But we would see, and most people would probably see that the real value and the real treasure basically lies in the area 2, where you can like basically also use these models to do research, ground them in some contextual specific domain, and where you can ask questions and get factual answers that you can also check. So one is already covered, area 1, generating things. There's nothing PwC can, of course, do about it. In number 2, there is something that we are trying to do built on existing solutions, and I will take you on a little bit of a journey what we try to do. The known problems of generative AI models, of course, for this area 2, so research and asking questions, are of course the well-known hallucinations. I don't say that it's a model failure, because it's not a model failure. The model is literally trained to generate things. So if you ask it to write a poem about, I don't know, somebody being here, and it writes a poem that's like new and it's not based on some factual knowledge of something, you wouldn't also say that it's like a problem, right? You wouldn't say that the model is mistaken. And it's the same way if it gives you, if it makes up a court decision for a lawyer that like never existed, it's also not a model failure itself. It's this so-called hallucination. The model just does what it does, what is trained to do, which is to mimic the existing data, basically, and like extrapolate, yeah. So that's the one problem for using generative AI, like for business use cases in general. The other thing is that even if you get the answer that's correct, so then you search for documentation and you see, oh, this seems to be right, or you have the domain knowledge, you still, even if you get this answer, it's like impossible in the current state of things to actually check whether it's the truth or from which source the answer is coming. This is a little bit changing now with this basically retrieval augmented things and with these like custom GPTs and so on, and I will talk a little bit about it. But in the normal GPT model, this is not possible. You have to add something to it for it to work, yeah. This also like impossibility to like link the source, or like just click on a button, like there's an answer, and after like every 5 sentences, you would have their citation. If you don't have this, if you can't link to the source, this has broader consequences. It's not that just that you can't check whether it's true or not, but you also can learn more. So, for example, if I don't know something about it, and I'm doing research about it in our company, or I want to learn more things, if I can click like on a link that would get me to the web page that mentions what the answer contains, then I also can learn about it more. So, I mean, this is not the best example for learning about something, but if I ask, if I would have like a generative AI model that would be trained on risk management policies of PwC, and there are many, and I would ask it whether like we can, if I can publicly say here that we have a global alliance with OpenAI, and the model would say yes, I can check it, and I also can learn more about the directives and guidelines. So you need these things that we are going to. The challenge is to use the GPT models just as a generator, but augmented basically with some relevant documentation. So how can we do this? So before we get to this retrieval, augmentation, and so on, which sounds like super fancy, of course, I like the name of it, but it's of course simple. The first idea that was here, of course, before and was very prevalent in the spring of this year was not some retrieval augmentation and live search and so on, but the idea was that you would just, that each company would have their own GPT model that would be trained on their internal knowledge. So you would still have like this body of this like general knowledge from the internet, so basically the crawled data that OpenAI probably trains the models on, and then you would like enrich it with your company guidelines and documents and so on, yeah. If you think about the use cases and the corporate services, if you think about lawyers and legal profession, I was always saying since I started studying at university, which was like 11 years ago, I was thinking like, yeah, law, legal, it always sounds so fancy, but I feel like they're just having some templates and drafting the same thing over and over again. And people are like, no, it's like you have to be like super analytical and so on. But it turns out that it's the first profession to be like being automatized as we talk. Already in March, there was some big announcement of PwC entering into alliance with basically one spin-off from OpenAI and so on. There are other legal solutions. And the idea in these, for example, like having GPT model for lawyers, so it drafts you the letters, like because there are like these legal letters, the contracts, of course, on all these kind of things and doing the research. The idea was that you would have the GPT model that would be trained on all this legal knowledge. So you would have like all the laws, but that's not enough. You need to have the legal opinions, which are usually publicly available or behind some paywall. So you would just like enrich the GPT model and fine tune or even rather retrain a model, yeah, with all this new knowledge. So as you can see on the slides, first idea is like this big LLM training set. You ground it in this domain, and then you ask a question. It asks the model as you would ask the GPT, and you get the answer. How do you think this turned out? Not well. Trust me, you should never trust a consultant, but I have seen it firsthand, like it's not working. You know, when you had, there was like this famous thing with the New York City lawyer who just like cited some legal precedents in the US that said like, yeah, based on this tort law and these legal rulings, our client is owed to be paid 20 million by the company. And then the judge was like, oh, these court decisions look, of course, very interesting, but I never heard about them, and they, of course, didn't exist. So the idea was that if you enrich this large language model, basically, if you train it, or at least fine-tune it, with all this legal knowledge, that there would be no hallucinations. It seems, at least from what I have seen so far, and I have seen quite a lot, yeah, in this specific legal domain, it hallucinates even more for some reason than the classic ChatGPT. Yeah. It might be because there are multiple reasons why this might be the case, but this we can discuss in maybe afterwards. This is also not such a good idea to like retrain it with the legal knowledge because it's costly. So it also like certainly is costly in terms of GPUs, yeah. And so this would be for the legal use cases. Let's say that like for other, it was just an example, for other business use cases, for example, if each company would have their own GPT and then they would change a guideline, then you would have to retrain the model every time that some guideline in HR policy, on car policy, how many kilometers per year you can drive would change, then you would have to retrain the model. So the option 2 is to do basically this retrieval augmentation that you have already seen, like the introduction to it before. Before lunch, I think, was the lecture. It's quite nice. And the idea is that first you ask the question, and then there is something called smart search, which is relatively smart. It's a search function that basically takes the question, and in this super basic form, it would look for keywords. So you would have like a, let's say that my use case is to create an HR assistant that helps your company employees with their onboarding process or helps all employees. So for example, in Austria, our HR website is very difficult to navigate and find things there, and everything is in German, and so on. So if you could instead talk like to a chatbot that would answer your questions, that would be much better. So basically what can you do here is that you have this storage with these like all this HR, but basically we downloaded the websites, and then basically would ask a question about it, and yeah, the search would like look only for the relevant documents, so like pages or paragraphs, and then it would basically send all of this to large language model, GPT-4 in this case, and it would tell it, this is the question, these are the relevant like information I found, make the answer based on this, yeah. And with this, basically smart search, we can talk about the smart search later. It uses this vector, basically the Gaussian similarity in vector search, but sometimes you also have to use the keywords, because with vector similarity, it would always return something, because it can never be 0. And this way you can confuse the model, and it can still give you the very wrong answer. The biggest benefit of this RAG, retrieval augmented generation solution, is that the hallucinations are much less. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the answers are precise, but it's much better, yeah. But we will see further that it still will not be enough for more complex use cases, yeah. So how we started with this RAG, which was in spring when the OpenAI models were available on Microsoft Azure, is that we call this project Guru. So Guru is like someone who knows everything, so that was the original idea. So what we did is that PwC globally publishes some PwC Global CEO Service. So they ask, I think, like 100 CEOs, maybe even more, and they have interviews with them, and they were like, so what do you think that will happen next year, basically? Do you see any recession coming? What are challenges and opportunities for the world, and so on? it's quite influential, this CEO survey, in terms of like how people, like how new newspapers basically like repost it and talk about it, but nobody really reads the surveys because they have like 50 pages and it's kind of boring. So the idea was that like you just take all these surveys and we just put them like in separate storage, and then we have this smart search function, which you can, I think there is this laser pointer, right? Yeah. There's this OpenAI plus Azure Cognitive Search, so that's this cognitive search in this example. The idea was if you have this simple front end and then just like you ask, for example, this question here in the middle, provide a summary of top concerns for CEOs in 2019 and compare them to ones in 2020. Yeah, which you wouldn't be able to do unless you would read both surveys, 2019 and 2020. Well, it turned out that it worked quite well. As you can see here, so provide a summary. It says that 2019 they were pessimistic, they were optimistic, and 2020 they were optimistic, but about the growth in 2020. But it didn't mention why, actually, which was the pandemic. So you can ask why, and it will tell you that it was the pessimism about pandemic, which changed the outlook from 2019 to 2020, because that's when it started. And already in this first solution, you would have this citation. So you can click on it, and this is chunked on the page level. So you would get exact page where this is mentioned, yeah. It was quite nice, and we were very happy to see such a nice result. By the way, this doesn't work with GPT 3.5 Turbo. This comparison capability, it doesn't work with 3.5 Turbo. It's unable to make comparisons for some reason. Yeah, and with GPT-4 it works, yeah, but it's costly. Yeah, so boom, that was such a success, and we were like, wow, now we are gonna sell like crazy. The results were really good, we were very optimistic. So the next proof of concept, which we did after this guru, was this HR guru, as I mentioned already, that I can ask things about the policies and so on. So here you can ask what does the buddy program in PwC look like. Here in this version, we also instructed it to create some like to basically summarize your questions into some like smaller questions and find answers to it. That's why how we were experimenting with it. Yeah. So for example, in number 3, you see what kind of training opportunities are available at PwC, and there are the citations down there, so you can look at it. Also, looks very useful. Maybe we will do some pilot for sure in coming weeks on this. Yeah, but you have to test it extensively first with small like pilot group of users. You can like just like have a broader base, because that's also what we learned during all these experiments and before also, of course, is that the idea that you would work in this agile way and that you would just like show every small iteration that you have, it doesn't really work if like there are too many like high-stake clients involved basically in a way. Because once you show something and it fails, it's like an alpha version that doesn't work, people always remember somehow this like failure, and then their like sensitivity to risk towards your own solution somehow increases. So you should always have like this small basically test user base that doesn't change. Yeah. This is that's why we are always testing everything internally before we are showing it somewhere. Yeah. And we only show the real live demo when like we really extensively test it, and I advise you the same, because it's the experience we are having over and over again. Yeah, when you show something and it just doesn't work because some request times out, even though the core solution itself works, it creates so much damage to the client, like for you, towards from your clients. Yeah, it's very important actually. Yeah. So there is also a more interesting question: will employees be entitled to I have to read it now. Will employees be entitled to standard kilometer allowance if the employer provides transport to the seminar location? Which is actually one of the questions that employees do ask. There it's able to generate some sort of answer, but it's too complex for basically just reading it from these documents. Yeah. Anyway, we were still quite like optimistic and satisfied. Some more difficult questions it wasn't able to ask, but you can also instruct it in system message, basically that if it can, which what we always do, that if you can't find the answer, you instruct it, if you can't find the answer in the provided sources, say that you couldn't find the references for it, which is great option of this REC solution, because in classic GPT model, it's always like generate something, right? Because it has like this ranked order of answers, and it just chooses the most probable one, yeah. So this was quite good, yeah. And the idea was that, like, yeah, maybe with this HR problematics, like, it can answer questions about body program, but with this kilometer allowance and so on, maybe if we just give it more data or something, it will work better. So then we got a business opportunity with PwC Germany. Germany is like a large territory, right? To basically create a product that I'm going to talk about now, which is called Private, like privacy aid, AI aid, like help. Yeah. Business idea was that basically motivated by our positive experience with this RAG GAI solutions, we got this opportunity to have Germany and German publisher on data privacy legal articles. So just that you know the context of this, it's like a big business. So there is this, in European Union are these GDPR laws, which probably don't apply in Serbia since it's not in EU, right? But under this GDPR, you are severely restricted how you can handle the data, the personal data in your company. And basically this GDPR says that, for example, each company with more than 20 employees needs to appoint a data protection officer, which can be anybody of you who works in the company. It doesn't have to be a lawyer. And this officer is to basically ensure the compliance with GDPR data privacy laws in the company so that the data are like cared for with due diligence, sensitive data are stored like separately and so on, yeah. So it's actually quite a big business because there are many companies in Germany, right, and in the European Union that need to have these data protection officers. So there is like a publisher called Datenschutzberater, which means data privacy advisor. Basically what this company does is that they publish literature and a magazine on data privacy, which yeah, is apparently interesting for some people, but basically because of the regulation. So yeah, that's the idea. So the idea basically is that together as PwC and Datenschutzberater, we come together and we transform all this knowledge that they have in this data privacy advisor into a chatbot. And then instead of like reading some magazine on data privacy every month to see what's new in data privacy, because these people are not lawyers, these data protection officers, they are not really interested in it, you know, they just have to do it, then maybe we can make like a chatbot that would have like all these correct references and citations and so on, yeah. So and there's, you see this abo up there, and this is like so that you can subscribe to it, and it's actually quite expensive, so it's quite a good business case, yeah. And companies are paying for it, yeah. So Private is the privacy aid, that's the current business name for it, yeah. So you would just transform everything they have because, you know, that's, the knowledge is the knowledge, the data is the treasure in this case, right? Because it's not some low quality Reddit discussion forums, but it's something that's behind a paywall. So all these like data protection articles, books on it, and so on. So if you can like transform all this knowledge and just put it into this tool, which would basically use this RAG GAI solution, maybe it will work. Maybe it will work better than these like law GPT things that are just being fine-tuned and so on, yeah. And the target audience would be these non-lawyers, and they would basically just buy it and so on, yeah. And yeah, that's basically the idea. This is like a simple user interface that we have for it right now. It's powered by this Datenschutzberater. It's up there, this data privacy advisor, yeah. And you can see that it works quite well already. So the question here is, we are a small company with 30 employees. Do we need to appoint a data protection officer? And it says, yes, you need to have it, but it's advisable to even have it if you are less than 30. And the first reference is the law that I will show them. You can just click on it. It's like a PDF reader. And the second reference is actually some legal opinion when they say that it's like always the best, yeah. Because these opinions and commentaries are actually very important in like a legal sphere, yeah. So this is how it looks like. You can just like click through it and get to this, yeah. However, did this work out? Are we like selling it now and it's live and it's in production phase? Not completely. We are doing extensive testing with data privacy lawyers, so just like this small group of testers basically from PwC. And it's like very extensive. We have always like this set of questions and answers, and we automated the tests in a way, so you can just like click on it and we get some sort of test feedback and so on, yeah. We were also experimenting with even incorporating this feedback in like a feedback learning loop into the machine learning model, but it just seems to confuse the model, yeah. And the OpenAI also does the same now, that they just stopped using this, yeah, as far as I learned now, but you know it, everything can change with them fast, yeah. There are multiple issues basically with it. I mean, it's working quite well, but for more complicated questions, it just doesn't give the question answers that are either detailed enough or like the answers are a little bit confused or there is something missing. Yeah. What we, for example, found that for some questions, first doing so you ask about is email a protected entity? And you will actually find that like if you have a business email like marcel.tkacik@pwc.com, because there is my name, it's actually a protected entity under some circumstances, yeah. So this is one of the questions where it does actually work well, but there are more complicated questions. But you would expect these data protection officers to rather ask more complicated questions, yeah. What's quite interesting is that when you saw the presentations before here today, that there is this vector search, like to retrieve, basically the things for augmentation. It doesn't always work, as I said before, because it would always retrieve some references. Like it would always give you some text into your solution, because it can never be zero, discussing similarity. Yeah. So what we found then was that if we first do just the keyword search, so the specified keyword has to be included, and only afterwards doing the vector search to order the retrieve references based on similarity, then it works better. But then we also found that for some other answers, it works the other way better. That first you get the vector search and then you do the keyword search, which is quite, but there is no clear pattern in it yet. What are the possible reasons for this? It's either that there is not enough data, or that the quality of data is maybe low, this we don't know, or it can also be that the limitation of this retrieval augmented generative solution itself, like not in our case, but in general, is in place, that there is a limitation. And this is what I would like to argue that is the case, most likely. This retrieval augmented, as you've seen today, it seems like it's gonna save the world. It's not. The reasons are that when there is too much data to search in, it just doesn't really work well, yeah. One of the reasons is the context length limitation of the GPT model. So you can't just like push everything you find. And if you get like 100 search results, and then 50 of them are still relevant, you will only be able to get like based on the size of the GPT model you are using, you will only be able to put in like, I don't know, maybe 20 of them, yeah. And this is something you can see with Bing Chat, and you can also see with this new GPT-4, because now GPT-4 can like search natively live. This is a new feature since like a week or 2 weeks, as I have seen. And you can see exactly that it's on the premium account, like GPT. Yeah, it uses GPT-4 with this search live function. If you ask it something, then you will see that it's just not, ask something about medication, for example. And you will see that it only takes like first 1, 2, or 3 possible, like basically search results, yeah, because it's already quite long to read the web pages, yeah. So when I told you in the beginning that there are 2 approaches, there is fine-tuning and there is a RAC, then it seems that there is the third option, which seems to work better for complex solutions like Data Privacy Advisor, and that's when you combine the fine-tuning to ground the model itself into your domain-specific context, and then you use the RAC just to retrieve the most important references. Yeah, and this seems what works for now the best, and we are in extensive testing of this solution. Yeah, this is something I could add with, but why do you need a RAC? You need still retrieval augmented generation to be able to basically get these references and check the truth of them, because there always will be the human in the loop. This will never be the case, that you will just be able to trust it. This will just never be the case, but at the same time, you need to fine-tune the model to this domain-specific knowledge. Yeah. I could end here, but I'm still gonna have a slide on how to fine-tune a model. Well, it seems it's actually not that easy as it looks like from presentation and slides. So what we are doing here is that we are using Llama 2, which is an open source model. So basically, if you want to fine-tune or retrain a model, you need to have these question-answer pairs, because otherwise you would just be adding things to this like large language model base, but this wouldn't really change anything, or you would just pull the weight. So what we do here is that we are, and you don't have the question-answer pairs, because if you have a literature on like data privacy, like you don't have like tens of thousands of questions and answers. So what we do is that we use GPT, ChatGPT, to generate the questions and the answer pairs based on the for each page or each paragraph. Like we ask, what could the person ask, and what would be the answer for it? Yeah. So that's what we use to generate these pairs. Yeah. So this is the data that we are getting in the automatic way. Yeah. And then the other thing is that, so then you have the question-answer pairs. What is the problem with fine-tuning? Is that you can't just like, it's actually really difficult because it's a difficult problem because you can't just retrain the model with these question-answer pairs because like this llama we use has 7 billion parameters, so it's the smallest one, I think. And it's the smallest one, and it would just, all these weights in the neural network model, they would just like shift just in accordance to your question-answer pairs that you got there. And you would spoil all these like billions of parameters that are there trained on these like all the knowledge of the internet, let's say, in this way. And this is called catastrophic forgetting, yeah. So solution that we use and we are testing now, and it seems to work well, is that it's called LoRa, which is lowering adaptation of large language models. This way the model parameters are kept the same, so they don't get spoiled or shifted just because you put some tens of thousands GPT-generated question-answer pairs, but it modifies the neural network in a way that it adds customized layers with our question and answers. This seems to outperform classic fine-tuning. It was tested also on the BERT when you just like customize the last layer or retrain the model, yeah. So in the end, it seems that by grounding the GPT model in the context of data privacy laws with this fine-tuning and still adding this RAG component to it to be able to check for the truthness and learn more about the problem or about the answers, the tool improves the quality, works more efficiently, and the answers, most importantly, seem to be the most consistent. So in the end, there is a third solution that combines the both, yeah. And the last thing before I finish is the obvious question that every business person here could ask is, why are we doing this? Because like, why do we do this? Why are we creating some like customized models and so on? Why do we tailor the models, or when should we buy the models off the rack? So now you see that there was this announcement of custom GPTs. It's already available on premium accounts on ChatGPT. There is Microsoft Copilot coming, of course, and so on. So why should we, like PwC, some consultants, just do like some models for these tailored products? We see there is a space for it because it's done by, of course, highly qualified data science team. And there is a space for it where you need to basically create scalable apps which are deployed on Kubernetes, and so on. That if you need a scalable app for many clients, which should operate in very high risk sensitive and reputation sensitive context. So if it can create a lot of damage, then you should definitely tailor your generative AI, retrieval augmented generative AI product. Yeah, this is where I see the use case for these tailored solutions. Yeah, the main benefit is the answers are grounded in the domain knowledge and still references, because it's costly. So it's, of course, the work of the engineers, but it also needs the initial setup and some GPUs for the fine-tuning. But it's this LoRa, for example, fine-tuning is relatively cheap in terms of course, training the entire model and so on, which even wouldn't be possible. So that's where I see the business use case for tailoring the products, yeah. On the other hand, off-the-rack products, like, you know what's off-the-rack, right? You go to H&M and buy the T-shirt or something. Where you should use custom GPT or Microsoft Copilot. I see the use cases basically everywhere where you just need something simple to guide you, but it can create so much damage. The benefits of it is, of course, very cheap. Everyone can do it. Create a customized tool. Yeah. Then there are many cons, of course, to it. So just this general context, general large language model context, and can terribly backfire in many business scenarios, yeah. Examples of this, of direct products, Microsoft Copilot that's coming. There are, I guess, some test licenses in many companies being done. I don't know if you've been rolled out to it already. This Copilot is classic of direct product that will not replace your job. I mean, of course, it will not replace your technical jobs, but it's something that will help you write emails faster, summarize them, learn from your previous emails and contracts and so on. But it's not something that's probably going to save the world in it will be very useful, definitely, but it's not something that you can just like put all your legal guidelines for risk management in your corporate company, and there will be some Copilot chatbot that you can ask about. This is not going to be the case, but this is something that clients ask us a lot, yeah. And of course, Copilot and custom GPTs and examples of off-the-rack products are products by startups that didn't yet close their business because of custom GPTs and Copilot being announced, yeah. So choose your startup product, yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We're a little bit over time, so no time for questions now. But probably anybody can approach you and ask you anything that if they need to ask. And I have to say thank you. This is your certificate.
Thank you very much.